evening, everybody. Welcome to Sips and Snacks. This is the January version of that. Again, we were supposed to have Eddie from the Traveling Vineyard joining us. And hey, Kathy, thanks for joining us. And we are having technical issues. I'm not sure if it's to do with my Facebook page or what's going on, but I can't get somebody invited into my Facebook Live. So I'm going to do just a shorter version of a mini wine tasting tonight from everything that Edie has taught me. And so I hope you enjoy. As you know, I'm Karen from the Juice Plus Company, and my joy and my passion for the last 15 years has been helping people get more and more fresh, raw, whole foods into their bodies so that they can enjoy the best health and vibrancy that they're entitled to. And so that is my goal, my joy, my passion. And I love food and I love wine. So I've been sharing a little bit more over the winter about wine. So I want to just share a few things with you tonight. Hopefully we'll keep it pretty short, and I'll give you some tips and teach you a little bit about wine and a little bit about how important wine pairing is, and talk a little bit about the Mediterranean diet, which isn't a diet per se, it's just a way of eating, but it's very healthy, and the Mediterranean peoples, all in the European area, tend to be a lot healthier than us here in North America for many reasons, and we'll touch on some of those tonight. So welcome. Thanks so much for joining. I see a few more people jumping on. Hey, I appreciate that. It's good to see everybody. I will be reposting everything. So first off, we're going to start with a couple of different wines, but I wanted to just share with you a couple of my favorite wine tools. So I got this for Christmas. It is an automatic wine opener. Love it. Can't believe I never had one before this. You're going to need, for most bottles, you're going to need a foil cutter. So it goes on top and you just move it side to side a little bit, and that pops off that little piece of foil on the top instead of having to fumble with it. Some wine bottles actually do have the little thing that you peel and then it comes off, but not all. So a foil cutter is another great tool to have. The next thing that's really important, especially if you're not going to drink all your one bottle of wine in one sitting, is what's known as a wine saver. These can be bought at wine stores and whatnot, and it's a simple little apparatus. This goes over the top of the wine bottle, and then there's a special stopper that goes with it, and it goes on top, and then I'm going to show you. And then when you hear that clicking noise, that's when you know that you've sucked all of the air out of your bottle of wine. And what that does is, with there's no air in your wine bottle, then you're not going to have any degradation of your wine. So you can keep your wine for ages as long as you suck all of the air out of it. So that's called a wine saver, $14, $15. And then they do usually come with the stoppers. Mine are multicolored stoppers, which makes it fun. And those are my favorite wine tools. Now, everybody's got a special kind of wine opener that they like. I have a Rabbit too, which works really great. It's very easy on anybody, especially if they're not super strong or have arthritis or whatever. But I finally convinced my daughter to buy me this for Christmas, and so it's my first one. Apparently there's ones that you can take off of the stand. This one's off the stand to charge it up, and they'll stay charged for ages. So I might upgrade to one of those later, but anyway, we've got 2 bottles of wine this evening. Hey, Jeanette, so good to see you. Oh, look at everybody jumping on. I appreciate that. It's great to see everybody, my healthy gang. I love it. So we're going to talk a little bit, just briefly about the wines, and then about healthy foods and how important it is to pair something that tastes or goes with the wine so it tastes good. Both taste good. And then a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. So today we're going to look at one wine that Edie was going to introduce to us, and this is called Jack Cannon. This is from the Traveling Vineyard. So my friends in the United States, a few of you, depending on what state you live in, you can order from the Traveling Vineyard from Edie. And this is called Jack Cannon 2016. It's a Columbia Valley, Washington Malbec. Malbec is a grape. That's the varietal. And I love Malbecs. They were perfected down in Argentina, and now the American growers are jumping on board. So this is a 2016 Malbec, and I just love the color of it. So I like to share with people that you put it in your wine glass and you do a little bit of a swirl. You take a look at that beautiful color. You can't see it as well as me, but it is fairly purple, it's not opaque. You can definitely see through it a little bit. It's got a nice body to it, but it doesn't stick to the side of the glass too much, which means it doesn't have a super high sugar content. And then you take your honker and take a big snort in it. Oh, and you smell whatever you smell. I smell jam, I smell cherries. Everybody smells different things, and as your nose gets more sophisticated, you'll be able to smell more things. So, but anyway, once you take your sniff with your big honker, then you can take a little sip, and you want to put it on the front of your tongue and bring it to the back of your tongue and then swallow. So it's almost like chewing, really. Nice finish, very smooth, very velvety. And the thing I like about Traveling Vineyard is that when you buy the wines from them, they have both in their app and in their website, they have, hey, welcome. They have pairing lists for you. So this particular wine and a Malbec in general is going to go really well with smoked ham and cheese. And I have to show you what I made because, again, I'm the healthy gal, right? So I try to keep things as healthy as possible. So I made these little things, I call them ham and cheese sandwiches. So it's 2 pieces of an aged cheddar. In between is an uncured smoked ham. So I'm gonna take a little bite of that, not the whole thing because that would take forever to chew. And then what you want to do again is you've kind of got that on your palate now. You want to take another sip of your wine. Oh, and they complement each other so beautifully. The flavors of the wine will come out even more, and you'll enjoy the food that you have on your palate as well. Something else that goes really well with this particular one is, goodness, people are trying to get a hold of me tonight, is I'm not going to eat this one. I'm just going to try and show it to you. But I made these. I grow a lot of things on my tower garden because, again, I'm all about fresh fruits, vegetables, and getting as much whole food in as you can. So these little, can you see them? Okay. So that's a basil. That's a leaf of a basil. That I grew on my tower garden. Those are my little tiny tom tomatoes that I grew on my tower garden. And then some fresh Parmesan cheese that's in there with a little bit of balsamic vinaigrette, and a little bit of glaze from Trader Joe's put on there. And then it makes a nice little presentation, but it's also a nice little sort of bite-sized snack. My basil leaves are huge, so they're kind of big. So again, you would take a bite of that and then another sip of your wine. And again, you would notice how the 2 things really complement one another. So let me give you a really quick description of when you drink wine and eat the wrong thing with it. What's going to happen is you're not going to probably like the wine. You're going to wonder why you liked whatever you put in your mouth. And I'll tell you why. Here's a great analogy. In the morning when you get up and you brush your teeth, most of us use regular toothpaste, Colgate, Crest, whatever. And then if you run downstairs and then you try to drink your orange juice, how does that taste? It tastes horrifying, doesn't it? So if anybody's done it, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, you get it. Anyway, that is your palate. And so it's got that toothpaste and all the aspartame and crap that's in your toothpaste. And then the orange juice, which normally tastes really good, goes right on your palate, and the 2 of them do not mix. So that's what I wanted to kind of share with you tonight, is that when you try a wine, don't just try it straight up. Try it with something that might complement that particular red wine. And you can always ask your server or the bartender or wherever you're at if they have any knowledge of that sort of thing. Obviously, the better restaurants are going to have a sommelier who's going to help you with that kind of thing. But a general rule of thumb with reds is an aged cheddar, a smoked ham. This is also another aged cheddar that I love from Trader Joe's. It's called Unexpected Cheddar. It's a white cheddar from Britain. Blueberries are often really good with a velvety, bold red. Tomatoes, caprese salad, those kinds of things. And then, of course, a dark chocolate, anything above sort of 60% cacao is going to be nice with a red. So you want to have something on your palate that's going to complement your wine, and then you're going to maybe learn, hey, Pauline, thanks for joining us. I see a couple more people jumping on. That's great. You are going to learn to probably enjoy red wines a little bit more than you had before. In America, we treat wine as a cocktail. You just sort of drink it. And it's really not meant to be a cocktail. The old world people and the sommeliers from the old world, you know, the people who basically invented wine, they will tell you that wine is an accompaniment. It is a food group, essentially, in the Mediterranean. And so that kind of leads me into my second part of tonight, which is, talking a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. So obviously wine is a huge part of the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterraneans, they do smoke. Now, I'm never going to recommend that to anybody for any reason, but they eat a lot of things that we don't eat over here in the United States. And so you don't find them with the obesity problems and the cancer problems and the disease rates that we have in North America. And I want to kind of share briefly with you why I think that really is. And that's because in the European diet, the Mediterranean diet, they get about 80% fresh, raw, whole foods. So yes, they eat a lot of bread, but they're made from whole grains. Yes, they eat a lot of oil, but it's first cold pressed of olives and, grapeseed and coconut and what have you. All their oils are going to be closer to nature. They're not going to be hydrogenated oils. They're not going to be oils that we've created here in North America, like the rapeseed oil and the canola oils. They're going to be fresh and raw and first pressings of the oils from the nuts and seeds and whatever they're coming from. They're also going to be eating protein, and they're going to be eating these in ratios and balances of about 80% fresh, raw, whole foods, and then the other 20% is going to be all the rest of that stuff, the breads, the meats, everything else. And I'll tell you why it balances out for them. It's because they get a balance of the macronutrients. We've lost track of this in North America. We just, love our fast food, we love our easy food, we love our prepared food, our frozen food. It's filled with things that our body does not know what to do with. So it stores them in our fat cells. And then for some people, the tipping point of disease comes a lot earlier than for others. And for some, it never comes because they have really good genetics. But in my family, cardiovascular runs in my family. And I've wanted to put that off, obviously, for as long as I possibly can. My father and mother were both very ill with it. My dad died very young with cardiovascular issues. And all the research, everything says the more fresh, raw, whole fruits and vegetables and plants you can get into your body, the better off you're going to be. More health, more vibrancy, more vitality, better longevity. And so that's my goal. And I'm hoping to continue on that train as best I can. So your macronutrients are the key. And in North America here, we've gotten a little sidetracked by carbohydrates. There are simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. The complex carbohydrates are what you're looking for. And where do they come from? They don't come from Fruit Loops. They don't come from, crackers. They come from whole grains, quinoa, brown rice, oats, anything that's whole grain, any of your whole fruits and vegetables, beans, legumes, lentils, chickpeas, things like that. That's where you're going to find your complex carbohydrates, which are completely different from your simple carbohydrates, which go from here to here. Okay? Next is your proteins. And again, they eat way less of the protein than they do of the other macronutrients. But a protein is going to come from things like eggs, dairy, meat, green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, seeds, nuts, and soy products. I'll get on another video about the soy controversy that's kind of come up here too. So, hey Wendy, hey Lori, oh my gosh, everybody's jumping on. This is awesome. Cheers to everybody. I'm so glad that you could join me this evening to learn a little bit about wine and a little bit about wine pairing and a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. All right, so continuing on, the last thing is fats. And again, in North America, we've gotten mixed up with which fats are good. Hydrogenated oils are killing us. Our body stores them, and they basically create disease after a while because our body does not need them, does not know how to use them. They're a foreign sort of object in our bodies. What we are looking or lacking in North America is the omega-3, 5, 7s, and 9s. And a lot of them are found in, obviously, fish, but also in the plant world. And so things like, again, meats and fish, some in dairy, nuts, seeds, and oils, your first cold pressings of your oils is where you're going to find a lot of your really good fats. So to wrap that all up in a bow, that's what the Mediterranean diet really shows. And from this evening's food that I showed you to pair with your nice red wine, we kind of had a selection of all of that. We had some dairy with the cheeses. We had some fresh fruits and vegetables with the blueberries and the tomatoes and the basil. We had some oils with the balsamic vinaigrette that I made with the oil and put on top of to make the little mini caprese salads. And then meat, of course, I love a good smoked ham. So that's what was in my little ham and cheese sandwich. So that's really what it comes down to, is that the Mediterranean diet, even though in our view they drink a lot, again, they smoke, which I would never recommend, but they drink a lot. It's because 80 to 90% of what they are putting in their bodies is as close to nature as possible. Whereas in America, about 95% of what we put in our bodies is not very close to nature. We've come to the point in North America where convenience, cost, and how it looks is really way more important than the food, you know, being fresh, raw, and whole. So like I said, that's kind of what I wanted to share with everybody tonight. If you want to stay on with me for a couple more minutes, we'll try the other wine that I have. And I've already poured it, and it is not from the Traveling Vineyard. It's called a Chateau Laurent du Blanc, and it's a Côte du Rhône. And a Côte du Rhône, a Rhône Valley, is a part of France that is, again, famous for grapes. And a Côte du Rhône, in order to have that appellation or designation, it has to be almost 100% of the Rhône Valley grapes. So this is a really nice Côte du Rhône. It's not Traveling Vineyard. So I looked it up earlier today about what pairs nicely with it. And interestingly enough, it's many of the same sorts of things. So for those of you who weren't on earlier, I can just review a nice sharp cheddar with some smoked ham. So I call this a little ham sandwich. All right. A nice British sharp cheddar has a slightly different flavor to it than the American sharp cheddar does. But again, a nice dairy product. Blueberries, which I just eat by the bucketful. Blueberries pair nicely with a bold, velvety kind of red. I made my little mini caprese salads with my basil and my tomatoes that I grew, and my parm and a little bit of balsamic vinaigrette glaze. And they go really nice. So again, what are you going to do? Does everybody remember? First thing you do is take a look at the color and the clarity. Oh, this is beautiful. It's more of a deeper burgundy than the purple. And it's got some, it's not opaque, but you can sort of see through it. When you do your little swirl, a couple of times, how come I can't make it swirl nicely? There we go. Then you stick your honker in there. Oh, okay. So I'm getting notes of black currant, a little bit of cherry, kind of leather. Like I said, my nose isn't very sophisticated, but I've certainly identified a few things in there. Quite nice. And then what you want to do is just take a little sip, go to the front of your tongue and the back of your tongue so you get it all over. And that gives you everything, you know, all the different stages of the wine, and then swallow. And then it's kind of like, it's almost like chewing. So we'll show you that. Oh, okay. So that's got a much stronger finish than the other wine had. And then, as I taught you a little bit earlier, you take something that pairs with it, you eat it. And then, oh, there's my other Jeanette on there. Nice to see you. I've got two Jeanettes joining me tonight. That's awesome. And so when you have that on your palate, and then you take the wine in your mouth, then the two of them complement each other. And oh my gosh, that's so nice. I'll try it in a few minutes with some cheese and whatnot too. I don't want you guys to have to watch me eating, but again, we're just doing a little bit of a very mini wine tasting. And if you are interested and you live in the States, especially, my friend Edie from the Traveling Vineyard, I have a subscription of Wine Club with her. And the Traveling Vineyard does these kinds of wine tastings virtually and in person if you happen to live in Southern California. For you, and then you can order from her either the subscription wine like I do or whatever wines you want. And she likes to introduce those things, so I'm really sorry we couldn't have you on. Hey Edie, on tonight. And then just wanting to share a little bit more about the Mediterranean diet and how healthy it is for us, and to use your sort of thinking cap a little bit when you're choosing your meals and choosing the food for your families. Try to look at your plate or your day as 80% fresh, raw, and whole, and the other 20% as your whole grains, your meats, and of course treats and everything were allowed, right? But to keep as much of it as fresh, raw, and whole as you can. That's going to give your body the most vibrancy, the most health, and many of you there are customers of mine and understand that I love to share with people about the beauty of Juice Plus, which is 17 to 39 fruits and vegetables, including an omega with no fish, that you can take each and every day in order to get that into your body, to bridge the gap between what you are eating and what you know that you should be eating. And so that will finish it up for me today. Oh gosh, it's so good to see everybody there. Thanks so much for joining me. I will repost this, and I will repost the little sort of recipes about what it is that I paired with my wines today that also kind of follow along with the Mediterranean diet. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. We're going to try this again with Edie, fingers crossed, next month, and we'll have a date for you really soon, but it will be towards the end of the month. So thanks so much, everybody. I see some people waving. That's awesome. All right. Thanks so much, and have a great evening. Bye.